Countdown to Armageddon, Part 1, Setting the Stage. In the Bible, there is a thing called double fulfillment of prophecy. That is, there is a clear historical fulfillment of prophecy, and also another fulfillment of the same prophecy relating to the end times, or the last days. For example, there are prophecies relating to Jerusalem, which point to its destruction by the Romans in 70 AD, but also relate to its fate in the last days. Similarly, there are prophecies which relate to the coming of Jesus when he came the first time, but also relate to his future coming as King of Kings to rule on the earth. Current world events involve different power blocks or groupings of nations which are coming together around the world. These power blocks are the modern embodiment of biblical powers of the past. The following chart shows how the nations are forming alliances according to God's plan. So we've got the kings of the East, which are only actually mentioned once in the Bible in Revelation chapter 16. The kings of the East are China. In the Bible, they're just mentioned as crossing the Euphrates River, so they obviously live the other side of the Euphrates River. But the modern embodiment is China. China has no real allies. Kings of the North were in the book of Daniel the Seleucid dynasty of Syria. The modern embodiment is Russia, and the allies of Russia are some European nations, Turkey, Iran, and the Shiite Muslim countries, including Syria. Kings of the South in the book of Daniel, this was the Ptolemaic dynasty of Egypt. The modern embodiment is mainly the Sunni Muslim, Arab and African countries. And the allies, the kings of the South, are Sunni Muslim nations around the world. Europe, the biblical embodiment was Rome. And the modern embodiment is the European Union. The allies of Europe are the Catholic nations. The Tarshish nations, the biblical embodiment was Tyre and then Tarshish. The modern embodiment is the USA and the Commonwealth nations. The allies of these nations are Saudi Arabia, Israel, and some other Sunni Arab states. And then we have Israel. Israel was Israel in the Bible, and in 1948 the nation was restored as was prophesied in the Bible. And the allies of Israel are the Tarshish nations. So to go through each of those one by one, first of all, the kings of the East. There's only one verse in the Bible about the kings of the East. This is Revelation chapter 16 verse 12. They seem to be related to the 200 million man army from the East mentioned in Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9 verses 14 to 16. Saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, but to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. Only China can field an army of that size. Currently, China is building its armed services. China is a world of its own. It does not really have allies. Currently, it is tenuously allied with Russia, but when the time comes, Its huge army will roll right through Russia. This will happen in the last days when China marches to face the armies of the Antichrist at the Battle of Armageddon. The next power block is the kings of the north. In the book of Daniel, the kings of the north were prophesied and referred to the Seleucid Empire, which existed from about 312 BC to 61 BC. After the death of Alexander the Great, 4 kingdoms emerged from his empire. Cassander ruled Greece and surrounding areas. Lysimachus ruled areas in what is present-day Turkey. Ptolemy ruled Egypt. Seleucus ruled an area that comprised present-day Iran, Iraq, Syria, and parts of Central Asia. Seleucus, one of Alexander's generals, founded the Seleucid dynasty, which was constantly trying to expand westwards and launched numerous attacks on the land of Israel. The modern embodiment of this empire is the alliance between Russia, Iran, and Syria. We can clearly see this alliance taking shape, and Turkey is involved as well. The kings of the south are mentioned in the book of Daniel. He prophesied about the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt. Ptolemy was another of Alexander's generals who started a dynasty. One of the Ptolemy rulers was Cleopatra, the 7th Cleopatra, who became famous for her relationship with Caesar and Mark Antony. The Ptolemaic Empire was based in Egypt. The modern embodiment of the kings of the south are the Sunni Muslim, Arab, and North African nations. Sunni Muslims and Shiite Muslims disagree over many issues, so much so that Shiite extremists have attempted to blow up the shrine of the Black Stone at Mecca, as they consider this idolatry. As a result of their differences, the Shiites tend to side with the kings of the north and the Sunnis with the kings of the south. The Shiites are more vehemently opposed to the state of Israel. In the Bible, Europe was basically the Roman Empire. The modern embodiment of the Roman Empire is the European Union. For more on this, see the webpage Why Britain Had to Leave the European Union. Today, the allies of Europe are those countries in the world that have retained Roman Catholicism as their religion. The time will come when God removes his restraining hand, and the wicked one, who we know as the Antichrist, will be revealed. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7-8. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. After God's restraining hand is removed, Europe will then be under the control of the Antichrist, and he will attempt to bring the whole world under his control. The Tarshish nations are the Commonwealth nations and the USA. You can see more on this on the webpage Great Britain's Tarshish. These are basically the free democracies of the world. According to Ezekiel, they will object to the Antichrist's attempted invasion of Israel, but not do anything about it. Sheba and Dedan. Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 13 says, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Sheba and Dan approximate to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Arab states. It is interesting to observe how Britain has started to increase its naval presence in the Gulf and its ties with the Gulf states. The Tarshish nations and the Sunni Gulf Arab states will ally themselves with Israel up until the final period of the Great Tribulation. Finally, Israel. Israel existed in biblical times and also exists in the present day. This is all part of God's plan. Bible believers always knew that the nation of Israel would be restored, and it happened in 1948. Israel is the apple of God's eye, and it will grow and prosper until the time of the Great Tribulation. You can read more about this period on the web page, The Time of Jacob's Trouble. Its allies are the Tarshish nations, who will support it up until the tribulation. Its great enemy is currently the kings of the North Alliance. Russia and its allies are becoming weaker, and they will at some point hatch a plan to invade Israel and grab its resources as a means of asserting their world power ambitions. However, this will not happen for a while yet. See part 2 of this series for the timing of events. All web pages mentioned in this video can be found at the prophecy-workshop.com site. Thank you for listening.